Now, this is about Nina Turner and Breaking Points. So Nina Turner was recently on Breaking Points, and the question came up, should we primary Joe Biden? Particularly, should he be primaried from the left? This was actually a pretty interesting conversation. Let me go ahead and cue up that video for you. Boop, boop, doop. Again, I'm going to chime in between. There are some things that are said in this video that I feel are spot on. And then there are some things where I'm just like, nah, let's call it what it is. So here we go. Should Biden be primaried in 2024? Mute my mic here.
Host of the conversation over on TYT, and of course, former national co-chair of the Bernie Sanders campaign. Great to see you, my friend.
Good to see you, Nina.
Yeah, great to be with you both, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you. It's great to see you. Let me start with like sort of a big picture question, and you can take this in any direction that you want. But what do you think is the biggest failing, or are the biggest failings of the Biden administration to date?
Not giving people something they can feel. I mean, you know, the Build Back Better plan, even though as a progressive, I want to see it go a lot further, but it's certainly a strong foundation that should be a push very hard. Also, not allowing two senators and the people who are hiding behind them, because let's face it, it's not just Manchin and Sinema that is standing in the way of the filibuster. They just have the courage to come out and say, we won't support changing the rules so that the filibuster and the way that it has been used historically, as we know, has been something, it's been used as a tool to stop civil rights. And so,
okay, I'm going to chime in here for a second. I actually agree with Nina on that. Now pay attention. This is coming from Nina Turner, and Nina Turner is telling you here that even she is saying it's not just Sinema and Manchin. Those are just the ones that are willing to come forward. I told you guys before, they're scapegoats. They're rotating villains. If it wasn't those two, it would be someone else. Now, Nina Turner is telling you the same thing. It's not just them. I'll go back in.
So they have no problem in the 21st century saying that the Senate filibuster rule means more to them than upholding democracy, and they're not alone. And so I want to see the president take the righteous indignation of this nation over that, over voting rights and other things that the Senate needs to get done to give people something they can feel on the road, and compel the American people to be on his side and say, hey, I'm standing up, but these two and any others who hiding in the shadows are standing in the way of my agenda, and this agenda can change your lives materially.
Now, this is where I disagree. Again, those Manchin and Sinema are scapegoats. I don't believe that it is just upon them. I don't believe that it is just them that is standing in the way of Joe Biden's agenda. I believe Joe Biden is standing in the way of his agenda. Some of these things that Joe Biden said he was going to do, that he said, well, Congress isn't for it, or the Senate isn't going to approve of it. Joe Biden can do these things by executive order. Who is standing in the way of him canceling student loan debt? Joe Biden and student loan companies. Sallie Mae, Navient, whatever their name wants to be tomorrow. Who is standing in the way of Joe Biden giving everybody health care in this country? He can also do that by executive order. Joe Biden and the health insurance companies, Big Pharma. So at the end of the day, Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin are just scapegoats. That's what I fully want people to understand. You have to look above them. You have to look above Joe Biden, and you have to look at the money. That is what is controlling all of this. Joe Biden is not using his executive power as much as he could. So it really pains me when people say, or conservatives mainly say this, that Joe Biden is trying to be like FDR. No. Let's not go down that road. FDR did a lot of things. And he did those things because the people pushed him to do it. The people rose up. Socialists rose up and pressured him. That is why those things were done. Right now, nobody is really pressuring Joe Biden. I've told you guys this before. We have to hit the streets. We have to put pressure on them to do these things. Otherwise, nothing is going to get done. And I don't believe that putting pressure on Joe Biden is going to be done by voting. I don't believe that. I believe the pressure is going to have to come from us going out in the streets and rising up, protest after protest, direct action after direct action. We need to demand that he does these things for us. And we need to do that with a lot of these other politicians that have been in DC for years, who continue to get reelected. And they continue to get reelected because their districts have low voter turnout. A lot of people don't realize that. Hold on, let me come out for a second. A lot of people don't realize that. Why do people like Jim Clyburn continue to get elected? Why does Lindsey Graham continue to get elected? And I mentioned those two because I lived in South Carolina before I lived in Massachusetts. Why do they continue to win? Because the people who come out and vote for them, most of the time, they're older people. You have to understand South Carolina has one of the oldest electorates. Most of the time, it's the older generation. Most of the young people they're not participating. But also, if you look at the numbers, you look at the voter turnout in their districts, people aren't showing up. The people that do show up are the ones who've continued to show up for years. They have repeat voters. You have to get the non-voters to come out. That's how AOC won. That's how Cori Bush won. You are not going to beat them by having the same people come out and vote for them. The majority of people do not vote. You got to get those people to come out. That's my little spiel there. I'm going to go back in the video. I get really passionate about that, so sorry. Here we go.
Nina, you were recently on CNN. It caused a little bit of a stir. Let's take a listen to that, and we'll talk about it on the other side.
They better not utter not one quote from the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., not one, or any of his colleagues and contemporaries as we come up on his birthday on Saturday and the national celebration on Monday. These people are cowards. They are soulless cowards to hold up a daggone rule. Filibuster is a rule. It's not written in the Constitution. It's not a right. It is a rule. And they're standing in the way of it. So this is nonsense. They worried about what the Republicans going to do. Let's take care of 2022. Let's do what Democrats can do right now. They have the power. And my message to President Biden, now he done wasted a whole bunch of time with these folks, being diplomatic, inviting them out to the White House and to time out for it. He needs to hold a press conference, let them know. Either you're going to be by my side saying you're going to be with me and getting rid of the filibuster, or I'm gassing up the jet on your behind, and I will be in Arizona and West Virginia directly and let the American people know who's standing in the way of my entire agenda, not just voting rights. So President Biden, gas up the jet and cancel student debt.
So again, I have to chime in here. I agree with her when she says that they shouldn't even bring up MLK, like the people who are opposing this. I get that. But honestly, neither should Joe Biden. Jim Crow Joe. I don't want my kids to grow up in a racial jungle, Joe. I co-wrote the crime bill with racist Strom Thurmond, Joe. He shouldn't mention MLK either. Really? All Joe Biden has done, his political career, is hold Black people back. And how quickly people could forget that because he was Obama's VP. But Obama held Black people back too. Going to Flint and pretending to drink the water. The dirty, poison, rotten water. Pretending to drink it. Telling the people the water is okay. And the people are sick and dying. Black communities. Obama did that. And Joe Biden was right with him. His administration. So Joe Biden shouldn't mention MLK either. Really? I'm sorry. Some people may be okay with forgetting about Joe Biden's past. Some people say, let's move forward. That was in the past. It wasn't that long ago. It wasn't that long ago in DC where he was on the floor saying he wanted to cut Social Security. He wanted to cut Medicare. Where he said, I don't care. He was talking about Black people. I don't care what they went through in their life. I don't care where they grew up. I want them gone. I want them off the streets. I want them locked up. That was not that long ago. Most of us who are watching this, we were alive when he said that. So let's stop pretending it was that long ago. Going back in.
It's interesting, Nina. I agree with your sentiment, but at this point, isn't Biden so unpopular that Manchin and Sinema have nothing but to gain except for being to see against him? Like at this point, would that strategy even work for a president with approval rating in the low 30s?
Sagar, popularity rises and falls. So it went down. It can also go back up by action. By being very passionate, direct, and deliberate, and really pushing the agenda that he ran on. I mean, let's just start right there. And we know the overwhelming majority of the American people, no matter how they lean politically, agree with canceling student debt, driving down the cost of prescription drugs, haven't paid family leave, et cetera. So we could go on and on. So it really is just holding strong to the agenda that he ran on. And his low approval rating, I believe, will go back up. It will go up, rather.
Senator Turner, there's been some conversation now about, okay, so Biden clearly has been a disappointment. In fact, we covered a poll today. Majority of people describe themselves as either being frustrated with his presidency or disappointed in his presidency. His approval ratings have fallen off a cliff. He hasn't been able to deliver on really much of any of his core campaign promises. People certainly don't feel like the country is, quote unquote, back to normal. So now there's a conversation about, all right, so what does the progressive left do about that? Do they have a primary opponent for Joe Biden? Is there another track or tack that they could ultimately take? Some people are interested in, hey, is there a third party effort that we get behind for 2024? What is your view on those conversations?
And Crystal, before we get to progressives in 2024, word has it on the street, or at least in the Twitterverse, that Sinema is the one that's going to primary President Biden. So they
Kyrsten Sinema for president. Oh, I'd love to see it. You want a clown show like no other? You want a clown show? Let that happen. Watch.
They need to be very much worried about the moderate and corporatist Democrats. This is, in talking with Marianne Williamson, and I know she's been on the show many times, and my conversations with her has been about the why. This is a suffocating moment in America's history and also the world's history, starting with the pandemic. So I urge the progressive movement to start with the why. Why do we fight so hard? Why are we the champions? And progressives have been the ones, continue to be the ones to hold up the president's agenda even stronger than he is holding up his agenda.
I'll answer that question. Why do we fight so hard? Because the game is rigged. That's why we fight so hard. I've said this multiple times. We need a separate party. Us trying to work with the Democrats, it's not working. We need to split from them and we need to do our own thing. This is why I tell people I'm advocating for third parties, independent candidates. If you're going to vote for those people. This progressives in the Democratic Party lane is not working out. How many election cycles do we have to sit through to see if this is going to work? People need food now. People need housing now. People need jobs now. People need paid family leave now. We don't have time to wait another election cycle and another election cycle to get this done. We don't have time.
The squad members are right when they said do not decouple, do not separate the infrastructure bill from Build Back Better. Guess what? They turned out to be right. And what is so important about Build Back Better, even though it is not as robust as I and many other people would like to see it, and it needs to be in this crisis moment. But that portion of the bill, not the infrastructure bill, that's only going to primarily enrich the people who always get enriched, and that's the corporations. But Build Back Better is about the social fabric of everyday people in this nation. The child
coming back in. Yes, they were right. You should have not split the bills. I agree with that. But it's also important to note that Ro Khanna and Pramila Jayapal supported it. So why aren't Democrats pressuring them and pointing their fingers at Ro Khanna and Pramila Jayapal the same way they're pointing their fingers at Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin? Let's be real here. Joe Manchin, we knew who he was. Joe Manchin never tried to pretend like he was something that he was more left. He never did. He never said he was for Medicare for all. He never said he was for Build Back Better. In fact, he said, I don't agree with this bill. He never said these things. Now they trying to put punishment and point fingers at him after he told you in the very beginning it was a no. He wasn't for it. But yet you have Pramila Jayapal and you have Ro Khanna, who also said in the beginning the bills cannot be split. They need to stay together. But they voted for it. The hypocrisy. You guys see? Where's the outrage against those two? And they say that they are progressive. Joe Manchin never said that. Let's be real.
tax credit, et cetera, et cetera. Those are the things that need to change. So, Crystal, I believe that the progressives need to continue to fight like hell as they are in the Congress, and the outside activist groups need to continue to push our agenda, whether people agree with it or not. When you distill it down.
Sorry, outside activist groups, got to jump in here. Outside activist groups need to continue to push. We've been pushing. We've been pushing. Remember those marches last summer? The marches for Medicare for All? That was us, the outside activists. Remember Force the Vote? Remember? Who came to the table and who did not show up? All the people who were pushing for Force the Vote. Guys, Force the Vote Town Hall got over 1 million views. Could you imagine if TYT would have come on board with that? It would have been even more views, and there would have been more pressure put on the squad to do the right thing. But no, people couldn't come together. The outside activists, really? The outside activists that push for these things and we're constantly smeared by people in independent media who are on the left? Us? The outside activists that put these direct action events together and organize and plan, and we're ignored? Us?
To its basics. It really is about lifting humanity, lifting the poor, the working poor, and the barely middle class in these United States of America. And if you are against that, you are the extremists. If you are against canceling student debt to lift the burden off of 45 million people, you're the extremist. If you are against legalizing marijuana and making sure that people's records are expunged, and also that from the economic standpoint, that the Black community that has suffered the burden of the war on drugs receive and are able to participate on the economic side, you're the extremist. If you believe that not having voting rights, expanding and protecting the right for everybody, no matter who they want to vote for, is not fundamental in the United States of America, you're the extremist. If you don't want to see minimum wage increase, everything else is going up, why not minimum wage? You're the damn extremist. So listen, progressives need to keep being hard charging. And as I said on CNN, let's gas up the jet, let's gas up the cars, even though gas prices are so damn high. So many people can't necessarily afford it, but the White House can afford to gas up the jet. Mr.
I have a
President,
feeling they could do it.
I think they
That's right.
They could if they wanted.
I mean, let me ask you this though, Nina, because you said the progressives in Congress need to continue to fight like hell. But I'm just going to be honest with you. I haven't seen them fighting like hell. I mean,
oh my God. Crystal Ball said something that I actually agree with. Oh my God. Yes. No, they have not been fighting like hell. They have not. Fighting like hell would have been forcing the vote for Medicare for all. That would have been fighting like hell. Put pressure on Nancy Pelosi. But no. Every time they got a chance to fight, they backed down. Iron Dome, they caved. Funding the police, they caved. They have not been fighting like hell. And I actually agree with Crystal on that.
And there seems to have been a decision, I don't want to relitigate, force the vote for the millionth time. But there was a sort of pivot point at the beginning of the Congress of they could take a more adversarial approach towards Democratic leadership and make clear to the American people, here's the real divide within the party, or they could try to position themselves to influence the bills that were coming out as they were making their way through Congress and have their own strategy, which is what you refer to. Okay, let's try to keep these bills tied together. Ultimately, that strategy didn't work. When it came down to it, there was a lot of pressure on the Progressive Caucus to effectively fold and let the infrastructure bill go through without also tying it to Build Back Better. There were some squad members who continued to dissent, but ultimately the strategy did not work. And so their efforts to, push Biden left and be a voice inside the room haven't borne a lot of fruit. So what would be your advice to them as they head into this year of how they could be more effective with the positions of power that they have?
Remember what separates them from the extremist Democrats, from the mainline Democrats. That's what they have to do. So Marianne Williamson is right. The why crosses all intercepts. It is, why are you there? Why are you fighting? And what makes you different from mainline and corporatist Democrats? Don't lose sight of that. And don't allow mainstream media, anybody else, to talk you out of standing up for humanity. So you're right, Chris. I mean, people disappoint all the time. Hell, I disappoint. Everybody disappoints. Just because that's the reality today does not mean that has to be the reality tomorrow. So the progressive, just as President Biden can, I believe, overcome his approval rating by giving people something they can feel, I do believe that the Progressive Caucus can overcome this moment and use their power. Why should Senators Manchin and Sinema get to have all the fun? They are holding up the agenda on the bad end. How about progressives stand strong and hold it up on the stronger end? They are the largest caucus in the United States Congress right now, and they need to act like it. So kudos to the squad for standing up extra strong. And there should have been some other members of that Progressive Caucus to do the same. And this is not, I'm not indicting them here today. What I am saying is remember what makes you different and hold strong to that. And if you know you are fighting for what is just, for what is right, and for what is good, really to hell with what other people have to say. And yes, is there a consequence for fighting for justice? Yes, there is. But baby, it is a consequence and a risk worth taking, because the American people need somebody or a group of somebodies to hold fast to standing up for what they need. We need it.
Oh, Nina girl, they know. They know. They know why they're there. I think that it's really interesting because we have people dying. We have people who are sick, unemployed, unhoused. We have people that have kids living in poverty, even people without kids, poverty. The poverty situation in this country has not improved. Now, I played a clip on Monday of MLK complaining about the poverty situation. This dates all the way back. Nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. We have all of those issues right now. And my idea of fighting harder is voting against some of these things that the squad voted for or voted present for. Taking a stand to establishment Democrats, standing up to Nancy Pelosi, standing up to the people that for a long time have been running the agenda. That's my idea of fighting harder. It may mean that sometimes you may have to leave your office in DC and get out there in the streets with the people. Come to the protest like you used to do when you were running. Talk to the everyday folk who canvass for you. And I know some of you watching canvass for AOC and Bernie Sanders. Getting back to where you were before you won. Being out there with the people. But they don't have time for that. AOC has time to do a Vogue cover shoot. That's more important. Wearing a tax the rich dress to the Met Gala while the protesters are protesting outside and pretending like you don't see them and smiling on the red carpet and taking pictures. That was more important. They have time for that. But they don't have time to fight. They don't have the will. They don't have the guts.